Hello everyone, I thought it was probably a good time to give you a bit of an overview of what's happening with Susie. I know there's a lot more people interested in this particular event that may have been following the GGR in the past, and there's some terms we're using and some equipment and so on. So generally what happened is we received a call. The first alert we had was from UK Rescue Coordination Centre. Susie had an EPIRB which she activated. That was the first notice. And that was registered in UK. They rang us and told us of the alert. We knew Susie was in the storm, and it was the last thing we really wanted to hear. Anyway, from there we went into what we call a code red, and we started a process. We also notified Chile Rescue Coordination Centre, so did UK, so we start working together. And Susie's situation, as you probably know, she was pitch-poled end for end. So if you can imagine, this is a boat, and here's the bow of the boat, there's the stern. She went down a wave, and the bow digs in, and the stern goes over the bow, and then she rolled over as well. It was probably precipitated. She was in quite a lot of wind at the time, but prior to that she'd been sailing at about 30, 35 knots, gusting a little bit higher, and everything was fantastic. She said she was really enjoying the sailing. The wind vane was working, the boat was flying along, and everything's sweet. But then the breakaway coupling on the wind vane, which is an automatic steering system, broke, and that means that all of a sudden there's no steering. So she has to get on the tiller and steer manually. You can only do that for so long. So Susie decided to lower her mainsail, and then knowing she couldn't steer forever on the helm and that the storm was going to get worse, she set a drogue, which is a drag device on the back of the boat. It's called a series drogue, this particular one. And that's creating drag, and the boat was reasonably comfortable. She then went down below and was getting rest, and after a while she decided to come back up on deck to check everything, and it was just as she was about to go outside, the boat took the pitch pole and rolled over. She was thrown quite heavily in the cabin and was concussed. She wasn't sure how long she was out of it. Now with a pitch pole, it's very violent. When the boat gets thrown through the air upside down, it's incredibly violent. It puts the most strain and pressure on the rig that you could ever possibly imagine. It's a lot worse than a typical rollover. Again, if you imagine this being the boat, a normal rollover with the mast up, the boat will go down a wave, turn sideways, and the mast goes down sort of softly, and you can then keep going and roll right over. But you can see it's a one motion, one movement activity. When you get pitch poled, it's like whack, and so it's the worst possible thing that could happen. And she lost her rig. So when she came to, there was a lot of water in the boat, a considerable amount of water. She thought she was sinking, so immediately activated her EPIRB. Shortly after that, she realised she had to get rid of the mast because there was the risk again of putting more holes in the boat. She didn't know what was happening. The automatic bilge pump started to evacuate the water. She went on deck to cut the rigging away and got rid of the works, got everything gone. The boat on deck was trashed, the pushpit and pulpits all bent up, all the stanchions have gone, everything on deck. Her spinnaker poles that she could have maybe used for a jury rig were gone. And anyway, she got back down below, caught up with the water ingress into the boat, and it was about then that she rang us with a very dramatic phone call, and it was kind of interesting. She was still very much, in shock, you might say, and remembering she'd just been concussed, and all she wanted to do was turn the EPIRB off. She said, "Oh, look, the water's not coming in, I'm not sinking, I can turn my EPIRB off because I activate it." And we knew she'd activated her EPIRB, but and that was a reflection. She's a real fighter. She didn't want to get rid of the boat. She didn't want to abandon it. And we had to make her realise that the situation might be a little bit more serious than that. This was literally within the first hour of it happening. And later on, she understood really the impact of the situation she was in. So then it was a case at this stage, Chile is looking for ships to send down. There was two ship possibilities. The closest one, which is the one that's just arrived, the Tian Phu, they couldn't contact it. They knew it was there through their AIS tracking system. They got another ship, and that was immediately diverted, but the Tian Phu eventually was contacted, and they've left it to her. Then the water, she managed to check all the safety and survival gear, it's all there. And she then started to get sick, pounding headaches, got in touch with MSOS Direct, which is our 24-hour telemedicine experts. and they assessed the situation, gave him some advice and drugs to take, and shortly after then the whole emotion thing and the emotion, but probably the motion rather than emotion of the boat rocking and rolling without a mast up is quite intense. So Susie was amazed. She was quite sick, couldn't eat, couldn't drink. She was losing body fluids all the time from everywhere, and there was no doubt it's seasickness. So she then took some seasick tablets and stabilised a little bit. Generally the water coming into the boat's not a huge problem. Now, even though there is no water coming over the deck, water still is coming into the boat. It's filling the bilge every half an hour to an hour, but we're not too concerned about that now because the ship is alongside, as you know. So moving forward, we had been advised by Chile that the ship was due to arrive still late today, and then just literally an hour or so ago we got a call from Falmouth, UK MRCC, and they advised that their tracking information was suggesting the ship was imminent and that Susie could expect to see it in the next hour or so. We notified Susie as quick as we could, and literally within 20 minutes, bingo, she went up. After we told her, she went up and she's actually seen the lights of the ship. That's a good thing. She has a SART beacon, which is not it's not a distress beacon. A SART is a small device. It's about this big, like a bottle of drink or something. And when you turn that on, it's a radar transponder. So when the ship's radar is turned on, it sees this dotted line going directly to Susie. So she's turned her SART on. She's also now would be in contact with the VHF handheld radio. So they would be in radio communication. And things will start happening soon. We've stressed to Susie there is no rush. She is in control of the situation. She will be given advice and opinions from the ship's master on what's the best course of action. Speaking to various agencies and ourselves here, we've put forward there is a plan that's been developed, and it's actually not too bad. We didn't like the idea of her having to get into a life raft and climb up a ladder, or go from the yacht to climb up a ladder. It's always a high risk situation. The ship is a big ship. It's 190 metres long, about 40,000 tonnes. It's a general cargo ship, and so it has hold, hatch covers and so on, and it has 4 cranes along the port side of the ship. So the conditions, the master has decided it's too difficult to launch the ship's man overboard recovery vessel, which is usually a rib. That would make it very simple for Susie to get in the boat and be taken back on board the ship. So the plan now is that they will hopefully use the ship's crane and swing it wide out the side of the ship. Okay, so you imagine now a crane hanging over. It'll have the heavy wire with the big hook hanging down, and then hopefully the crew will connect to that big heavy hook another lighter line, so you don't have this huge hook banging around. And that line will have either a loop in it or a hook or something like that. And the idea will be, Susie's currently, as we speak, running the engine. She had trouble starting it previously, so she's running an engine test. The boat is currently hanging on a sea anchor, so she's literally put a normal anchor, chain and rope off the back of the boat, which stops the drift and holds it in line with the waves. And as I say, the waves and swell have dropped back. So after she's run the motor for about an hour or so, she'll know that the fuel system is working properly and it's likely to keep running. She's checked the rudder and the tiller. The rudder and steering on the boat seems okay. She checks over the side to make sure there's no ropes. When everything's ready to go, and if the plan is confirmed by the ship's master, then Susie will be given some instructions on to where to go and what to do. I would imagine the ship will go head to wind. Okay, so the ship will go head to wind and probably steam forward at about 1 or 2 knots or something. So they've just got steerage, and then the crane is hanging over the side, the strop's hanging down. Susie will then manoeuvre her boat. This is where it gets tricky. She'll come and follow the boat. She'll be able to motor probably 3 or 4 knots maybe, and she will catch up to the hook and line hanging off the side of the ship, and she has nothing on deck. There's no mast sticking up, it's all gone. She will then have her bosun's chair, you might say. It's like a climbing harness, so it straps around her waist, and it's got a lift point in the middle, and it's the same thing that mountain climbers use and so on. She'll have that fitted, and she'll make up whatever strop with hooks that she thinks she might need. She'll also have her sailing inflatable life jacket and safety harness on, but we don't want to lift with that preferably, because that's a hanging thing from your chest. it's certainly better to be on a hook from your bosun's lift sort of thing, your climbing harness lift. And then it gets a bit tricky because she'll have to, remembering the boat is going up and down 3 or 4 metres, it's also rocking violently from side to side with no mast to dampen that movement. The ship's crane, now imagine this, the ship's crane is like a big lever with the rope going down. As the ship is rolling, right, like this, that hook at the bottom will be going up and down quite a lot, okay? And there'll be what's called like a jerk moment. So when Susie's up there, she's got to make the timing right and decide exactly when she wants to hook on to this line. And this is the tricky bit. I've done this often, similar thing with Zodiacs, getting onto ships at sea in Antarctica, and you definitely get slack, and then all of a sudden, bang, you can't control it because the crane driver can't winch out and up quicker than the motion of the ship. So there's still plenty of challenges. And at some point, she'll make a decision to stop the boat or grab the line, grab the hook on, and then she'll get a lift up into the air. And once she's done that, she's clear. She's on the crane hook. They'll be able to swing her back. It'll be a hell of a ride, and lower her onto the deck. But the good news is that if you accept this snatching moment, she will be well clear of the side of the ship. That's usually the danger zone. If she was trying to get off from DHL Starlight, it would be banging into the side of the ship if she was trying to climb a ladder or things like that. So there is a lot of advantages to this idea with the crane. So keep your fingers crossed. It may actually work out okay. So I think that's pretty much about all there is to it. We'll let you know the result. We'll try and keep you updated on Facebook. Yeah, it's still not easy. We've got the utmost confidence in the professionalism of the ship's crew and the master. We're incredibly grateful for everyone that's involved so far. MRCC in Chile, they've done a great job, and also Falmouth, UK, MRCC, everyone that's involved. We're all hopeful, and we've passed on your best wishes to Susie as well, and we've certainly sent good luck to the ship's crew to hope everything that goes well. So we'll talk to you again once it's all over, touch wood. So we'll see you again shortly. Thanks a lot, and good luck, Susie. Can't you turn it off, Jean?
No.
Uh-oh. We're having trouble turning